Have you ever thought that a cow could be applied to a divine justice is so unexpected that it would make any Hollywood movie seem like a common history? As it is, and what it came to pass that night in Cincinnati, it was something that was not on the best screenplays in the action comedy you could imagine. Do you believe that in the middle of a farm in the calm of a cow is a cow, if it has the character of a real episode in Karma? And no, I'm not exaggerating. This is History in the Mix is a little bit of Kung Fu Panda, with a touch of a revelation in rural and a hint of humor in film, all at the same time. You may even think, Hunter, this is only an urban legend of a farm, but I swear to you that what happened was real, and, more than that, he was a man who, in the rural life in all things, it can be surprisingly powerful. I'm a hunter, Woody Allen, and I'm here to tell you a story that will make you rethink when natural justice cannot reach you. And look, it's not just a story of a farm, either. This is a story filled with mystery, humor, and morality, which, I am sure, you will get in your head. Stay with me until the very end, because you are going to know about Dolores, the cow, the scripture, and by a thief who entered the farm, with the intention of picking up a few tools and came out with more than what he had expected, a personal visit to the farm, and, perhaps, to a degree at the technical school of the punishment of heaven. Have you ever wondered what happens when the universe decides to level the playing field in a way that is so very unusual? Therefore, you must prepare yourself, because this story is all about that. And the amazing thing about it is that it happened on a normal night, or at the very least seemed to be. It was past midnight, when the wind shook the trees, the sound of the crickets mixed with the rows and rows away, and the silence seemed to be quiet, that is until the door to the barn opened, all of a sudden. Can you imagine a situation like this? The one scene is so calm about it, and all of a sudden, a mysterious man in black gloves and a tool, crowbar coming and hiding on the farm? And what came next? Well, that's going to leave you jaw-dropped. Because, really, what happened there? There was only a robbery. It was a lesson that the universe has its own way of doing it justice, and even though we didn't realize it at the time. Now, to understand what is really behind it all, you've got to take the next step and dive deeper into this story, which seems more like a comedy, with a dash of suspense, but, in fact, it is the pure essence of a country life, with their magic touch, and justice for others. And, look, what's coming next is going to surprise you in a way you never thought it would be. As we begin to unravel the details of this story, it is clear that there is something more than what the eye can see, in the first layer. It is as if each and every event, no matter how simple it may seem, he carried a subtle message, a lesson, a silent, which only those who truly notice you can see. And in that moment, you realize that life, with all its nuances, is a stage of learning, and deep, where the magic happens, in a way that it is not always possible to explain, but you feel it in your heart. It is a connection to the unseen, one that reminds us that everything has its time, its own pace, in your own righteousness. If a story has touched you in some way, I say to you, I invite you to let us in the comments what you touched on, or what was the feeling you got to think about this. Your participation is what makes this change is as real, and particularly, because, he said, that was a conversation, in fact, a space in which our experiences are. And, if that content has brought a little bit of light and comfort, don't miss to enjoy this video. It will help to spread this message to those who also need to hear something like that. And if you want to continue to explore these themes with me, and you take the chance to subscribe to the channel, this video is the perfect opportunity to delve a little bit deeper, to get a better understanding of the life. You find that many of the times, it seems like a simple story. In fact, it is a connection to something bigger than themselves. Because, deep down, we are all on this journey together to seek a sense of magic and justice in our own history. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth of it, is that a lot of times we go through the entire life looking for answers outside, waiting for someone, a situation, or even the universe in us to deliver what we believe in, that needs to be done. But, in essence, all the things that we are already deep within us, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations, which we from time to time. It's like if you were to be in a constant search for something that is, in fact, he was always there, quiet, waiting for our attention, and our courage to look within and recognize it for what it has always been a part of who we are. This is the finding that the key is inside the us. It is a transformation of a silent, almost invisible, but it has a profound impact on our way of looking at life. It's as if, once you understand this, you start to realize that the whole of our history, its highs and lows, challenges and victories, has been shaped by the narratives we create in our own minds. And it is this narrative, one that is many, many times, is home of the biggest dreams of those who are in the trap, and we can't see it clearly all the way back to the core. When we begin to break down these stories, we see that they are not always the truth, but it is a distorted interpretation, which we have learned to accept as our own. In the process of self-discovery, a lot of times, we will find our own shadows, our deepest fears, and it is also our greatest strength. It's like opening a door that takes you to a dark corridor, where we are hiding our own doubts, our own limitations, but also our potential, the most important. And then, in the face of such an area, we can begin to understand that everything that we thought to be obstacles in our way, in fact, were calls for an evolution of the greatest. Those are experiences that, when you look at it with honesty and show you how we are able to transform, to overcome what seemed to be an insurmountable, to get in touch with an inner power and strength that is often dormant because of the external noise and distractions of the world. The great thing is that many of the times we forget that we are the authors of our own story, and that is, to recognize that the author, we carry a huge responsibility, but it is also liberating. Because, when you take control of a roadmap of our lives, we begin to notice that we can rewrite the chapters, to put it that it no longer serves you, and create a story that reflects who we truly are and who we want to be. It is a journey of courage, of honesty, of looking at one's own truth, and to accept that, sometimes, the biggest threat to ourselves, our limiting beliefs, our motivations, and our vintage patterns. And, in this way, the key to change is not something that is external, but to an understanding that only comes when we stop looking for the answers outside, and we listen to our own internal signals that are telling us. It's a question of silence, of listening, intently, to feel the pulses within each and every one of us, and rely on your intuition, even when it seems to whisper to us in the midst of the chaos of your daily life. Because, deep down, that connection is our truth is what will give us the strength to move forward, even when everything seems to be uncertain, even as the fear and insists on trying to stop us. And that's where the real transformation happens, when we realize that change happens from the inside to the outside, which is the power to create a new reality, that it is our ability to align with the thoughts, emotions, and actions that who we really are. All of this leads us to a deeper reflection on the role that the mind plays in our lives. Because of it, a lot of times, it's such a lens is distorted. It manipulates our perception and causes us to believe in stories that are not our own truth. When you learn to let go of this lens, we can begin to see more clearly the beauty and simplicity of it really doesn't matter. And so, we see that our freedom is not to gain something from outside, but to free themselves from the bonds built that keep us from living fully. It is a journey of self-acceptance, forgiveness, and understanding that we are all made up of light and shadow, of successes and failures, and it's all part of the same development stage. Every decision we make, every thought that we have cultivated, it is like a seed that germinates on the inside and shapes our reality. The most fascinating part of it is that when you understand this, you begin to realize that we all have the power to choose which seeds we will nourish, what are the stories we want to go in life, what are the emotions that we want to grow. This awareness gives us an immense freedom, responsibility, too, because it becomes our job to take care of the garden, with the love, patience, and courage. And, in doing so, we transform our experience of life, to create a story more in line with who you really are and what you want to feel. Because of this, the journey of self-discovery is a journey without end. It is a discovery of the constant of the layers that reveal themselves as you are ready to face up to our own truth. And, in doing so, we realize that the greatest strength we have is our authenticity, and the courage to be ourselves, without masks, without judgment, without fear of showing who you really are. And, in this act, to find a peace that none of the conquest of outer replacement. Because, deep down, all of the things that we seek has always been inside of us, waiting for the moment to be seen, accepted, and loved. And when you realize this, we are capable to turn to our history, from the inside to the outside, and create a life that reflects our essence is pure and true. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because of the plunge in the deep, you realize that all the things that prevent us from seeing the essence is, in fact, it's a layer of deception that have built up over time, many of which are driven by the expectations of the outside, by the opinions of others, a necessity for almost mandatory for the approval. These layers build up silently, forming a facade that a lot of times we believe to be our true identity. That is, in its essence, it is a helmet that is used to hide the things you value most in our vulnerability, in our weakness, and our weakness, in fact, it is the beauty in our humanity. And when you start to open your eyes to this end, it all changes. The fear is that once appeared to be so strong and overwhelming, it becomes an opportunity for us to rediscover, to understand what real courage is, to accept who you are, no masks, no filters, All of our shadows and light are integrated in the same space as one of freedom. This is a journey of self-discovery that is not linear. It is like a dance of subtle, between which we want to hide and what to look forward to disclose, among which we believe will be, and who we really are. And, in this movement, we have found that the greater the release comes from the realization that you don't need to be perfect, nor full, in the eyes of the world, because perfection is an illusion, a social construction that, in the distance more and more of our lives clean. This is where it comes in the revelation that the real power is in the allowing us to feel, and in the open space of the vulnerable, in the embrace of our deepest emotions as an essential part of our journey. And when you do that, you start to realize that life is not a constant search for something outside of us, but it's a chance to reconnect with the things that have always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear and doubt. Each and every decision we take, every step we take in this direction, it is an affirmation that we are the authors of our own story, and that we have the power to rewrite the narrative from the inside to the outside, to transform our own suffering in the knowledge of our failures into stepping stones to growth. In this process, with the understanding that it is all a reflection of what we believe about ourselves, it becomes clear as the light that illuminates our path, showing that our evolution is to learn to love ourselves unconditionally, no matter what the world, say, or the judge. And, in a way, it is the key that unlocks the built-in ports, which before seemed to be closed off, revealing a universe of possibilities, the dreams, which you can take from a genuine connection with our inner selves more deeply. It's as if, when we accept who we are, in fact, opened a window to a freedom that I never imagined to be possible, the freedom that comes from within and is not dependent on external circumstances, but in which it blooms in the unconditional acceptance of all of the things that we are, with our strengths and our shortcomings. And, at that time, a new perspective, it reveals that life isn't about conquering something outside of us, but make us the full, entire, complete, and in our hospitality. This understanding drives us to move forward with courage and hope, knowing that a transformation is the most true thing happens when we stop looking for answers outside, and we listen to what your heart really says. Because, deep down, that it is perfectly true that we can find peace, happiness, and the meaning of life. It has always been within us, just waiting for us to permittissimos to open the door for it. I now want to go more in depth on that subject. The connection to this truth, it is like a seed which, when planted in the soil of our consciousness, it begins to grow and flourish, revealing that all of the things that we have always been a day of remembrance, where you can meet up with us in spirit. And, in accepting this view, we realize that life is no longer a constant struggle for something that is out of the range and turns it into a dance of self-discovery, self-love, and the freedom that comes from within, and that it does not go out, you don't run out of power. This paradigm shift is like a flame that heats our soul, light up the dark corner in which they lived in self-doubt and fears, and brings us to a state of peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but that it is born out of alignment with their knowledge of our truth, the most pure. And, to the extent that we are going to walk on this path of self-discovery, every step becomes a celebration of our inner selves, a recognition that we are all whole, even in our imperfection, and that the latter is the greatest act of courage that we can be. Because when we woke up to the reality that everything takes on new meaning, and the life, no longer to be a never-ending quest for something that is beyond the horizon, becoming, go on a journey of auto-amor, in connection with the present, and the realization that, deep down, we are your one-stop source for all of the things that we have in mind. And thus, true freedom requires a daily choice to reconnect with the essence of Him, to leave behind all the masks and labels, and to take who we really are, and to live in that authenticity, courage, excitement, and, most of all, love. This is one of the greatest lessons that we can learn from it, that the universe conspires in our favor when we recognize our own light, when we stop seeking validation from outside, and began to rely on the beauty that exists in all of us. And, in doing so, we realize that the whole of our history, and with its pain and triumph, is a story of bravery, perseverance, unconditional love for yourself. Because, at the end of the day, all of the things that we have always been on a journey of self-discovery and path to the truth lies in the courage to look inside, honest, compassionate, and confident in who you are, first of all, whole, and able to change our reality, the only one to reconnect with the things that we've always been, in love, light, and essence of the pure. And, as long as this understanding grows deeper within us, we begin to realize that the greatest battle has never been out there, but in our minds, in our hearts and minds. Every doubt, every fear, and every trial that we have a layer of fog that obscures the light that was always there, just waiting for you to reconhessimos. To the extent that we let go of these chains and invisible, we have started to see more clearly the fact that we are not far away, and in some place, out of reach, she's always been there inside of us, like a gentle whisper that only needs to be listened to with great attention. And active listening requires you to make a delivery, and a willingness to abandon a sense of control, to let go of what we believe to be our reality as fixed and have to accept that everything that limits us, it is, in fact, an illusion created by the mind which has not yet learned how to let go. On this journey, we have discovered that the real power lies in our ability to choose what we eat, what we believe, and, especially, in that we decided to leave. Every thought, every emotion of which we grow, it is like a seed that germinates in our experience, and to shape the world that we perceive. When we begin to understand this, we realize, too, that the change does not come from an external force, but an internal transformation, which, once started, it echoes in every action, every word, every silence. It's like a dance, a silent, between who we are and who we want to be, a peace that only comes when we stand up and we have learned to trust in one's own heart. And in that moment, it all makes for a lighter, more real, more intuitive user interface. Life is no longer a constant struggle against what they believe to be in one's own limitations, and is a celebration of our freedom to create, they choose to be. As we move forward on this understanding, we begin to realize that the universe responds to our vibrations, our intentions are sincere. It is not a matter of you want anything in a cursory fashion, but to align our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions with the fact that we feel is at the heart of us. When we do this, we build a bridge to the invisible, between who we are and what we want to experience, in a silent connection that leads us in the paths which before would have seemed impossible. And, in the process of self-awareness, we learn to trust our intuition and listen to that silence which speaks louder than any noise on the outside. It is as if to silence the voices of fear and doubt, and we could listen to the guidance that comes from your heart, the one that reminds us that we are the architects of our own reality. But in this journey, the more beautiful it will be, it also presents its challenges. It takes courage to acknowledge our own shadows, to face that we would prefer to hide from, in order to admit that we still have open wounds and limiting beliefs. And, at the same time, it's the courage that frees us, that allows us to open up the space for a real, profound, and goes well beyond skin deep. With each step taken in this sense, it's a small victory, and a reaffirmation of what we are capable of, rewriting our history, and transforming pain into a learning experience, in fear, in love, illusion, and the truth. On this journey, we have learned that the most powerful force there is, the one that comes from within, the one that connects us with the power to create our own reality through love and understanding. And, as long as this understanding grows, we also realize that we are not alone in this journey. Every experience, every challenge, every moment of doubt, it is an opportunity for us to remind ourselves that we are a part of something bigger than themselves, a web of light that connects us all, and to all of you. This is the consciousness of unity, brings a deep sense of peace, an assurance that you are always being guided, even when we can't see the road clearly. It is as if, in the silence of my soul, you know, that's all. It is only a matter of time. We can learn to trust in the process, and to understand that each and every step, however small it may seem to you, it leads us to exactly where we are supposed to be. And it's this journey of self-discovery, long or hard, that is to say, it is, in fact, the way that you can follow in order to become who we really are, a being of love, light, and infinite potential. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens when we begin to realize that what we are looking for have always been a matter of reconnecting with our essence is pure. And that reconnect ion does not require an effort that is external, or search for projects, and she was born from the recognition that all of the power, the beauty, all the light that we want is within us, just waiting for you to let out. When you learn to listen in a way that is true, the accept process without judgment, we can begin to understand that what really matters is not what other people think, what we believe to be true about ourselves. It's as if every experience, every challenge, and it was an opportunity to remind us that we are full, we have everything you need in order to create a life that is aligned with our essence, is genuine. All we need is the courage to open the internal space of the house, and to let that light shine in the sun. And then, in a movement of self-discovery, we found that the higher the liberation comes when we stop seeking out the stuff that's already on the inside. It is as if, instead of looking for answers in places that are far away, we begin to listen to the voice that had always been there, a silent, but present, in the hope that the reconhecimos. This voice, he reveals to us all that we need in order to be happy, fulfilled and full. It is already available in us, we just have to allow the truth to be revealed. And to the right, oftentimes, it requires a total surrender, a conscious surrender to the flow of life, to the wisdom that resides in our hearts and minds. When we do that, we realize that each and every moment of silence with each breath, conscious, this is an opportunity for us to reconnect to the essence, to remind us of who we truly are aside from the masks to the opinion of the fears that have built up over time. Because of this, the journey of self-discovery is not a straight line, or on a quest for the perfect out of reach. It's a delicate dance between you accept our shortcomings, learn from them, and, at the same time, to recognize the beauty of who we really are. Each and every scar, every doubt, every single moment of vulnerability is a key part of this puzzle that reveals to us our true nature. When we looked at it with an affection for all these bits and pieces of the story, and we believe that they are a part of our evolution, which helps us to build a narrative that is more authentic, more in line with the love is who we are. And, in so doing, we let go of the illusion that we are different, better, or more perfect in order to be worthy of your love. Because of love, after all, has always been here, they get in the rhythm of our hearts, waiting for us to decide who will listen to you in fact. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the very essence of our journey, is to realize that all the things that we look for is a simple matter for us to reconnect with who you really are. And this is to reconnect. It is not a form, it is a shift in perspective, an inner transformation that allows us to look beyond the surface, beyond the limitations that we have created. When you start to realize that this is a connection that is our natural state, all things are brighter, lighter in weight, more real. It's as if, when you open the space for it inside, we look at the universe in a different way, with a much more loving, more compassionate, more in tune with our divine essence. And it is this change of view tells us that the greatest freedom we can win is the one that comes from within, from in-depth understanding of who we are whole, capable of all the things that we want, when we choose to believe in it, with an open heart. Leave in the comments, I came to realize the truth. And in that moment when we understand this truth, and it all seems to fit it all in a way that is different, almost as if a curtain had been lifted, and the light from the sun to enter from all of our room in the dark. We notice that all of these things, these doubts, these limitations that we have, many times, they are constructs that we have created in the course of time, as we believe that something is out there to define who we are, when, in fact, the largest drive is in all of us. It's a silence that reveals, in a quiet, pointing to the fact that, as much as the outside world to try to convince us of the contrary, in our very essence, is a source of never-ending possibilities. And it's like an internal revolution, a sort of wake-up that you don't need to commit to anyone, because it has to come from a deep, visceral, that we are the masters of our own destiny. From this understanding, insight into what is possible expands. It is not a matter of waiting for something external to happen in order for us to feel full or performed, but to know that all the things that we've already exists within us, just waiting for us to have the courage to look within, to dive in your own soul. It's as if, instead of looking for answers out there, have to listen to the voice that had always been there, as silent but powerful, it is ready for the future. And, in the process, we can begin to understand the fear that seemed to be an insurmountable barrier. In fact, it is an opportunity for growth, a chance to get to know each other better, and to attend to the things that limit us, and, hence, to free with our true essence. Once you understand that, life becomes a journey of self-discovery, continuous, where each and every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen the connection with who we really are. And, to the extent that we are releasing this outside expectations, we also found an inner peace that is not dependent on the circumstances of the opinions and approvals, and time-sensitive. It is a peace that comes from being aligned with the truth, with the Son of the Most Profound, without mask, without the mask, without the mask. Is this the freedom you are searching for, in essence, has never been outside, she's always been inside of us, waiting for the moment when the courage of to be revealed to you. And then, to the extent that realization sets in, one thing is clear. We are all responsible for creating our reality. Not in the sense of controlling everything around you, but you understand, our decisions, our actions, our thoughts, and emotions that shape the world in which we live. And this is a responsibility. Rather than that it seems to be a heavy load, it becomes an opportunity for empowerment. Because, when it comes to that, we are the creators of our own lives. It all makes for a lighter, more real, more authentic. It is as though, all of a sudden, we realize that all of this is the story of fate, luck, chance, is in fact, a story that you can rewrite at any time. Just have the courage to look beyond the surface, and trust in one's own light. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, this understanding, and it often requires an honest look at and denied in our own shadows what we would prefer to ignore it or hide it. Because its true freedom comes from accepting who you are as a whole, with our imperfections and weaknesses, while recognizing that they are a part of our growth and our journey. And that is, to support the whole, we have lost the hostages of our own limits, both mentally and emotionally. We have found that, to forgive, and to forgive ourselves and others, we let go of a burden that prevents us from moving forward to create a brand new story. And this story is written in a way to the courage to be who you truly are, without masks, without the fear of being judged, because we have learned that the only opinion that matters is our own, one that comes from the heart. And so, each and every step in this direction will lead you to a deeper understanding of the true transformation happens from the inside to the outside. All real change comes from the recognition of our true essence, and that space is silent, where the potential is infinite. And, in doing so, we realize that life is no longer a constant struggle against the external environment, and it is a dance in harmony with what is, with what you have come to the us. Because, deep down, what we are looking for is a connection with our most authentic self. This is a peace that is not dependent on external conditions, but it is born out of a certain built of what we are full, just as we are. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this topic. This is a journey of self-discovery reveals that the biggest secret is out there on the achievements and the materials or on the opinions of others, but in our ability to look inside and see what it has always been there, hidden beneath the layers of doubt and limiting beliefs. And when you do that, you start to realize that every decision we make, every thought that we have cultivated, it is a seed that we plant in our own souls. And that is, to nurture those thoughts of love, gratitude, and trust, we are creating a reality in which anything and everything is possible, where the freedom to be who you really are, it becomes a constant. It is a process that requires patience, strength, courage, and, above all, a genuine, if you allow yourself to feel, to be open to what is most profound in all of us. In this connection, the power inside is the one that gives us the strength to move forward, even during times of the most challenging, because we all know that in the end, no one else has this key, but we are the same. And with this realization, everything changed. Life is no longer a struggle against the world, but also an opportunity to show who we are. Our essence is pure. And, in doing so, we found out that the real world is to a destination far, far away, but it's a state that we can grow each and every day to choose as to the authenticity, self-love, and the courage to be who you are, and regardless of whether any of the judgment of the outside. It's as if, when we look inside, we find an entire universe of possibilities, a place where everything is allowed, and this is where the truth is heard more strongly than in any doubt or fear. And in that moment, we realize that the path to transformation, this is, in fact, return to home, to the place inside, where it all began, and where it can all start over again all the time. And then, at that moment, the feeling of freedom that comes to mind is so intense that it seems to fill every cell of our being. It is as if, to explore this universe inside, we were finally reconnecting with the essence that has always been there, invisible, but still powerful. It is a breakthrough quiet, almost a whisper, that shows our true strength is not out there, on the achievements of the surface, or in the approvals of the outside, but in that sacred space that we have inside of us, the one who never leaves us, even when we have forgotten of your existence. And it is at this point that we realize that the self is not a day of the search, but in the journey of recovery, to remember who we are before you in all of the masks and limitations. It is as if, when you jump in the deep end, you could see the you that you really can limit many times. It's a narrative we've created, a story that we believe to be the truth, but that, in its essence, it is just an interpretation of the distorted than we really are. And then, what seems to be a fight to the exterior becomes a delicate dance with your own, indoor, routine, silent, where each step reveals a new layer of resistance and liberation. In this process of awakening is like a kind of alchemy, in the emotional, in which the importance of the question of the fear and the guilt starts to fade out slowly, giving way to a clearer, it seems to come from a place of the deepest, most pure. And when you understand it, many will begin to understand that true power is not in the control of the external world, but to master your own mind, emotions, and beliefs that fuel what we believe to be our own limitations. It is a kind of revolution of inner quiet. You don't need the big gestures or changes in foreign, radical, because it is all happening because of the intensity of an understanding of the interior. And then, when you do this, you start to realize the impact that this change has on the product, such as a knock-on effect that spreads through changing our choices, our actions, and our relationships. Each and every decision that it was born of this new awareness is the seed of a new era, a new way of living, to be more in line with who you really are. But, at the same time, this is a journey of self-discovery and reveals something even more profound. The idea that it is all a matter of perspective, looking at you with love and compassion, even in those moments when we feel lost or damaged. And that perspective is the key to unlock the doors which before seemed to be closed, because it allows us to see that our own limitations are also a part of the learning experience for most of the opportunity for growth, which leads to a more authentic to ourselves. And then, when you have this understanding arises from within, It is an invisible force, but it was irresistible, and that pushes us to go ahead, even during the most difficult days, and the certainty of the path. It is a matter of honor and respect for our own personal evolution. It's as if, when they look on the inside, discover a never-ending source of courage, hope, and love, and it reminds us that we are never really alone. That is, the connection is closer to the truth is always there, you just open up your heart to it. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, in essence, that the quest for self-knowledge, it is not only a journey of discovery, but a change of paradigm, a change of view that allows us to see life with different eyes, lighter, and more accurate. It's as if, when you open the doorway, have to understand that our reality is a projection of what you believe, what you feel, and what they are allowed to. And that is, to change our ways, we can rewrite our history to fight for a fate more in line with the core of the most pure. It is then that we realize that the power of change is in our hands, the ability to select a story that is more conscious, more loving. And when you do, the sense of freedom increases, because we no longer have just actors in a play written by external factors, and we have to be the authors of our own story, with all of the features and possibilities that exist in all of us. All of the things that seem to be far away or out of reach, it becomes a matter of connection, alignment, to surrender to the flow of life, which is the most intelligent and compassionate than we could ever imagine. And, at this point, we understand that the biggest key is just that, trust in one's own essence, and in our capacity to create, to expand, to start over again whenever you need to. And just like that, very slowly, on this understanding, you will an integral part of our day-to-day, like a seed that germinates in the fertile soil of our souls, growing stronger and stronger with each and every experience, every tear, every smile. Because, deep down, it's all a matter of if you allow yourself to feel, to be open to the fact that the pulses within each and every one of us, even if it is subtle and quiet. And when we do that, the world around us becomes one to reflect that light, and that the authenticity of this connection that is true to who we really are. And, little by little, you realize that this journey has no end, because it is a constant reconfiguration of a constant renewal of who we are. With each step taken in this way, it is an opportunity to discover, to be free from the shackles that imprison, and to embrace life with more presence, more love, and more strength. After all, that's the beauty of being alive, the chance of daily rewriting of our history, from the wounds of a path of light, and to turn what appeared to be a defeat into a victory, to be silent, that you are only the soul can understand. And, in the process, a truth that is revealed with the strength that we are solely responsible for any and all of what we have. But we are also the only ones that can change this situation and create a new story to wake up to a new version of ourselves. And when you understand it, the sense of power and hope to become an invisible force, but it was irresistible, and that leads us to go forward with an open heart and the mind comes to life, because we all know that deep down inside, it's a decision for the inside. You trust in one's own essence and the magic that it holds within itself. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. As it is, this is a journey of self-discovery is just that, a discovery of the constant of the layers that seem to be hiding their true essence, as if it were somehow a universe within it. It is often hidden among the clouds, the fear, the doubt, and even in the hard routine that we carry. And, in the course of this process, we found that the greatest weapon against uncertainty is the courage to look within, to confront the things that you avoid, and a lot of times, we don't really know for sure what it is. It's as if, when we started this, we were dismounting in a shell that we hold, recognizing that all the strength we need has always been there, quietly, waiting for the right moment to emerge. And this is not something that is external, it is not a conquest, not tangible, but it is a power that is born from within, a light that goes on when you decide to get in touch with our deeper truth. Have you ever noticed how many times the greatest strength is in our mind? It creates barriers, limitations, and stories that seem impossible to overcome. And yet, it all begins with the way we choose to see the face of these difficulties. This is the choice that is where the true transformation is, because when you change the way that we understand the obstacles, we change our vibration, our state of mind, and, by extension, our own reality. It is not a matter of denial of the fear of the pain, but you can learn to make them with a consciousness that is more zoomed in, like if you're looking at a storm, which, in turn, will pass. At this point, we realize that our strength lies in our ability to stand firm, to trust our own strength, even when everything seems to be crashing down around us. And this confidence is born of a deep understanding that we are all humans have within themselves a source of never-ending possibilities, the power, which is revealed precisely in the face of adversity, at a time when I need to. And this is where it goes to the very essence of our freedom, to realize that the real change happens first in the home, in the way we think, feel, and choose. When we open our eyes to the truth, everything changes. Life is no longer a series of insurmountable obstacles, and turns out to be a chance for constant growth, learning, and evolution. Every challenge is an opportunity to reaffirm who we are, in fact, that we strengthen our connection with our inner selves, with what is set in stone and that no one can take away from us. And, in doing so, we begin to realize that our greatest weapon is it's not something you can buy or claim, but it's a certainty that comes from inside, with the confidence that, no matter how hard it is to be in the way, there is always a light to guide us, in a voice that encourages us to keep on going even when everything seems to be too dark. And, at this point, it is inevitable to think about how such a light to this, it was often hidden by the years, the conditions of the stories that we tell, and that's what made us believe that we are not capable of, or what life was like in a constant fight against the destiny. But this is an illusion, a lie that we have learned to accept that, and that, in fact, it takes us away from our true essence. When one is freed from these shackles, we can begin to see the world in a different way, with hope, and with a deeper understanding of what all that really matters is the one that we have in-house. And it is this charge, the energy, it's something that we can empower each and every day, like a fire that needs to be connected with our actions, our thoughts, and our emotions in line. And when you understand it, you realize that you have the power to change our reality. That is, in fact, the decision to believe in one's own light. Because, deep down, that the light has never ceased to exist, and she was always there, hidden beneath the layers of insecurity and fear, just waiting for the time of discovery and the light of day. So, the big question is, how do we feed this fire? How do we do it to grow and become a source of energy that sustains all of us in every storm? Perhaps it is a matter of learning to listen to our heart, to rely on our intuition to make more space for you to the core of who to speak louder than the voices outside that you try to make us change it. It is a journey of discovery, from the return to yourself the main role in the story and realize that by the end of the day, we are the authors of our own destiny, able to write a chapter of courage, and of love, and of hope. And, as long as this understanding will be deeper, we realize that the true power lies in our ability to choose, to decide who we wish to be every day. This is not an easy task, because you need to have the courage to face that many would prefer to ignore them, to face up to the fact that sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it is liberating. Because you are, in essence, everything that limits us, it is a reality that we have created in our head, a story that you can rewrite at any time, if we have the courage to look beyond the surface, to have confidence in our own truth. And, in the process, we can begin to understand that the greatest gift we can give to ourselves, and it's this journey of self-discovery, of self-transformation, the freedom to be who we truly are without fear of judgment or that we won't be perfect. After all, it is the perfection has never been the objective, but rather the authenticity, and a genuine connection with what is most true in all of us. And, so, we went ahead to find that our essence is the source of power to a silent but infinite, which is to remind us that we are beings made of light, and are able to transform into any setting to create the realities that before would have seemed impossible. This is the truth, which is so simple and yet so profound. It is the one that sustains us on the way, even in the most difficult times, because we know that deep down inside, we've never been alone. We are always connected to a power greater than that beats within each and every one of us, a force that only needs to be recognized, which is activated and strengthened. And that connection is what gives us the courage to follow, and will continue to believe that anything is possible when we choose to trust in one's own heart. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, in reality, the greatest strength that dwells in us is not something that is distant, or of intangible assets, it is of the very essence of that which has been forgotten in the course of so many layers of insecurity, fear, and doubt, which we have built up to try to get it to fit into a world that too often seems not to understand or appreciate who you are to the truth. When you start to see it silent, it's always been there, waiting for the moment to be recognized, it changes everything. It's like, all of a sudden, a veil was drawn, and the interior lights start to light up every dark corner of the interior, revealing that the power to change our lives, it always has been inside of us. We just need to be awakened with a simple act of attention, of silence, of a genuine connection with you that are in addition to the masks. In this process, we have realized that all the struggle, all the strength, and often it is a reflection of a disconnection from the essence, which, for some reason, it has been relegated to a secondary place, hidden under the layers of conditioning that has taught us to question his own value to minimize our most important asset. And this is where it comes in the revelation. This is the force that beats inside of us that is our true source of power, creativity, and unconditional love. It knows no bounds, and she can't get enough of her. She just needs a safe space to express themselves. When we learn to trust, and who will listen to it's the little things in the day-to-day, and we start to realize that all the answers that we are looking out there, they've always been right here, inside us, hidden by a layer of noise to the expectations of others, and of the needs, which we from time to time. And then, when you get to this force, it starts to take on a new color, a new texture, a new intensity. Their decisions prior to seem difficult or even impossible to make the natural because they come from a place of alignment, true, and authentic. And, in this connection, it reveals a truth that is hidden, that they will often try to hide it out of fear of being judged, or that we won't be the case. When we go on that journey of self-discovery, we find that the transformation is not something that comes out of it, but it is a reconstruction of the internal reconstruction of who we really are behind all of the layers for strength. Each challenge, each of the resistance, this is an opportunity for us to reconnect, and even more so with such a force that has never left us, just waiting for the right moment to be revealed in all its power. It's like a seed that is even buried beneath the layers of the earth. It keeps its potential to grow and flourish. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that the whole of our history, with its aches and pains and learning experiences, it is but a preparation for this moment, in the wake of the recognition of our true nature. The real freedom comes from such a deep understanding of who we are, above all, a being of light, of love, of power. And this power, when it is recognized, it gives us the courage to move forward even in the face of the storms, more frequent and more intense, because we all know that deep down inside, it's all part of the plan, to go on a journey that takes us back to the house, within our own selves. And, as long as this understanding grows deeper, and our view of the world changes, we look beyond the surface, beyond the limitations of it before, seem to be insurmountable. We begin to realize that what really matters is not the achievements of the outside, but a genuine connection with our inner selves, that which makes us vibrate, which makes us feel alive and whole. And, at this time, we have found that the real power is not in the quantity of things you have built up or in the passage that we are looking for, but in the depths of our soul, of our capacity to love, to build, to forgive. It is a journey of self-discovery that takes courage, yes, but it's also a sweetness to the infinite, because at the end of the day, we are just returning to the home they never should have left. This is a huge revelation that changes everything. You realize that you are more than you think, more than what we feel, most of which live on the surface of our lives. We are one of transformation, a light that never goes out, and essence is eternal. You just need to be acknowledged, to be revealed in full. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, as you embark on this journey of self-discovery, we've begun to realize that the real power lies in our ability to choose who they really want to be, regardless of the external circumstances. It's a matter of aligning with that inner strength to keep alive the fire of our authenticity, even when everything around you would seem to indicate otherwise. And, in this way, we have learned that the answers do not come from the built-in formulas, not to outside opinion, but to listen quietly, in a sincere dialogue with that which beats within us all. In this connection, both delicate and powerful at the same time, it shows us that change is not something that happens at one time or another, but it's a constant evolution, a dance discovered and rediscovered, in which each step forward with courage and faith takes us closer to our truth. And then, when you open yourself up to the truth, everything changes. The pain, if you make it life lessons, the questions are transformed into the clarity, and the fear of it is dissolved in the knowledge that we are exactly what you need to be to move forward with hope and love. Because, deep down, all of that pursuit of self-discovery is a journey of remembering who we really are, free from the restraints that have been imposed upon them by society often teaches us to forget about our inner selves. It's a journey back home to the deep, where she lives with the peace that we are always searching for, the strength you've always had, the fact that you always called in. And so, all the things that seem difficult or impossible gain a new perspective, because we understand that the greatest freedom is to be true to ourselves, to observe the rhythm of, and entrust that the universe conspires to help those who have devoted themselves to their true purpose. And, in doing so, we realize that life becomes an expression of authenticity, and a celebration of the constant of the core of the purest, most of that sparkle that never goes out by the storm to try to extinguish the light. And it was in this moment of deep connection, self-discovery, real, that ultimately, we realize that we are the beings of light that are able to transform into any of the above scenarios, to create endless possibilities, to love unconditionally, and the next, always with the open heart and mind in alignment with what is most true in all of us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, in that moment of clarity, when the soul seems to open up like a flower blossoming under the sun, we see it all the search, abroad, all the anxiety, all in the attempt to control that which is outside, and it was only the shadows cast by light that we urged to turn in all of us. The very essence of our existence, and never was it something far, far away, is something that is needed to win or reach out to hard to the outside. She was always there, quiet and patient, waiting for the desvendasemos of our own ability to see through the eyes of the heart. And, in doing so, we realize that we are the creators, the architect of your own universe. You will be able to transform the routine of giving life to the dreams of forgotten, and to make connections that go beyond the understanding of the rational. Because you are, in fact, all of the things that we are looking out for is an attempt to reconnect with that inner light, that a lot of the times it is hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, or judgment. And then, when you realize that, our life changes completely. We see life as a series of obstacles, and we see it as an opportunity for ongoing evolution. Each of these tasks, it becomes a lesson and an opportunity to reaffirm our strength, our faith in the power that we have inside of us. The responsibility for creating a reality that is aligned with who we really are no longer seem like a massive undertaking, and it becomes a choice every day, an expression of self-love, and about the journey. Because, at heart, a true transformation comes from the understanding that we are the instruments of a higher energy that pulsates, vibrates, and expresses itself through our actions, thoughts, and emotions. And, when you choose to grow positive thoughts to nourish the feelings of gratitude, and to act with authenticity, and we are feeding on this is the light that governs us, and who, in turn, radiates to everything around us. This is an in-depth understanding leads us to a state of freedom that you just get to experience the truth. Freedom is not an escape from, an act of escapism, but a conscious surrender to the flow of life and trust that everything happens at the right time, at the right intensity, and headed in the right direction. It's as if we learned to dance in the universe, rather than fighting against it. And then, in a movement of the delivery and acceptance of it, we have found that the greater the power that we have to do is to transform our emotions, to rewrite the story we tell about ourselves, and create a new script which reflects our essence. Every decision, every thought, every word, that has the potential to strengthen the connection with our true nature. And, in doing so, it all makes for a lighter, more clear, more real. The journey goes on a quest for authenticity, for alignment with what is most real to us. We find that the self-knowledge is not a destination but rather a road that turns with every step, every discovery, every moment of inner silence. Because when you stop and listen to who you truly are, without masks or expectations, we find a peace that none of the conquest, the material is able to provide. This is peace, this is a reflection of a soul, that is, if you accept that you are in love, you understand. And then, when we give ourselves to that truth, we can begin to understand that the external world is a projection of our own essence. Thus, the more aligned we are with our inner light, the more harmonious it becomes a reality, the more opportunities open up in front of us. And this is where it all starts to make sense, in a way, more in-depth, closer to the truth. Because, deep down, we are not here to look for something on the outside, but you can rediscover who we are, in fact, to keep in mind that we are a being of light, in a constant state of evolution, have been able to create, to love, to transform it. And, by acknowledging this fact, we realize that our most important mission is to live with authenticity, and the courage to be who you really are, without fear of judgment, without the limitations imposed by the ego. It's as if our lives were always there, just waiting for us to decide to log in with it in a conscious way. And when you do that, you start to realize that the whole of our lives is an opportunity for growth, healing, and expansion, and go on a journey of self-discovery that never ends, but it's becoming more and more beautiful, to the extent that we give ourselves up to the flow of energy that sustains all of us. And in that moment of understanding, everything seems brighter, lighter in weight, more real. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message he spoke to you in some way. Few people have been able to maintain this look, even the end of it, and if you're here it's because something in the content that resonated within you. He writes that it was for me. Or, who knows, I got to the end because I feel like the truth. These words bear powerful, because it shows that you are open to you to reflect, and connect with the one that has been shared with the public. And, by the way, I want to invite you to continue on this journey with me. If this content made you think differently, if you subscribe to the channel so we can go together, the deeper your thoughts about it, which makes all the difference in your journey. And, of course, if the conversation touched his heart, and leave a like. This is a way of showing that this is the message to have any impact. It is worth it to split that time with you. Now, if you want to dig deeper, there's a video right here on the side that complements the conversation, is a natural continuation of this theme, which we have just been exploring. Click there and follow me, because the journey doesn't stop there. There's always something new waiting for the one who has to take a closer look for himself, and to life, that keeps us going. So it is with me, for every step of this journey is an opportunity to find out more, turn to, and if you feel like you are part of something bigger than themselves. And, in the end, remember, this journey is up to you. I went with you to the end, because, most of all, I believe that these moments of reflection, you can help us to build a lighter, more real, and more full